Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of Chaos Season Offense matches. I decided to use Zelgius again this week, mostly to see how he'd do without the extra stats from Mythics to back him up. His kit is the same as before, focusing purely on correcting his low speed stat to let him go head-to-head with enemies that might normally give him trouble. While the lack of Mythics, and more importantly a 6th unit for support, limits how far he can push things, he can still reach an effective 83 speed thanks to the cross-map support from Eliwood, Gatekeeper, and Triandra. Working now into the squad to enable Eliwood also donates a breath effect to Zelgius, giving him much easier access to Lightless Luna, and gives him multiple ways to bring Prime fully online without needing to get into combat first. The extra Kanto mobility that Eliwood offers makes it much easier to navigate the map, letting Zelgius pick off a key target and panic the team before moving into a better spot to tank from. Gatekeeper, as usual, is an invaluable source of warp bubble and extra healing, and plays a great way to shut down enemy grand strategy or bonus doubler setups. The extra damage from exposure really adds up for a multi-hit weapon too, especially with Triandra donating extra true damage each combat as well. Zelgius didn't quite sweep the week this time though. There was a particularly spicy match near the end of the week that gave Hel another chance to shine his bonus unit. Hel's remix turned her into a really unique powerhouse, backing up her nearly unconditional miracle with null follow-up, post-combat healing, damage reduction, and true damage makes it very difficult to knock her out in one round of combat, and Gambit helps her lean into all of those strengths by adding an extra layer of damage reduction and true damage. It synergizes really nicely with Miracle, a special she wants to use anyway to cover her weapons loophole against mages. Her support is fairly similar. Eliwood and Gatekeeper fill identical roles, while Milla replaces Na as an extra layer of cross-map stat support, and isolation if needed. Peony adds even more healing for Hel to work with, along with plenty of mobility for the entire team. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. This map was a neat puzzle to solve. It's a pretty straightforward corridor setup at first glance, but the combination of Dagger and Sigurd can complicate things really quickly. Sigurd's weapon lets him attack safely into most enemies, which gives himself Pathfinder, while also increasing his entire team's movement with this special. That's enough for Volk and Dagger to sneak a lot further out on the map than you might expect, letting them pick up some easy knockouts. The maxed out Formidable can make this tricky to attack into as well, especially with Asker bolstering his stats, and the traps in the front line keeping them fairly safe from melee approaches.
What's your plan?
Fortunately, there's a way we can avoid having Sigurd moving his team too far forward.
I see.
By planting Zelgius right up front here, we actually guarantee that Sigurd isn't going to move before he attacks, and he's also going to be the first one to attack, since the only other units on their team who could attack here are the melee ones that Zelgius could counterattack anyway. And since Zelgius is threatening the two tiles to the left of him, Sigurd is going to attack from the safer tile, which keeps him all the way in the back, and stops his Pathfinder from ever giving us problems. The panicked Asker isn't really going to get much done here, and even after a dance, the Sigurd can't really break through Zelgius, especially without his special being recharged. And from there, Dagger isn't having a good time of this. And getting to Quater is just a fun time, even if she is a bit of an older unit at this point. Volk doesn't get a chance to put that lethality to work.
Prepare to bleed.
And then we end the turn with Formidable. Things are a lot more straightforward from here. We can just have Zelgius move in to pick off Sigurd.
Without mercy.
And then use Kanto to move forward and start blocking Azura into place.
Ready. To where?
That can help us finish that off by dancing her and Kantoing forward with Triandra. We can just use Guidance to get her all the way in, and give us a safe turn before we pick up the Aether Pots and close things out.
Let's see now.
Go, go, go!
Direct me.
This match was another neat one to pick apart. The terrain and traps make this a difficult team to hit and run against, even if Corin can be attacked from out of range of Maria's miracle support. Sword makes it even harder to attack into the team by turning Robin into a near-safe bodyguard, while Cordelia's dual strike support gives the squad a lot of firepower to work with, especially with Plumeria's ploy covering most of the map. Robin's Rally Spectrum also does a lot of work here, giving them a lot more stats than you might be prepared to handle. Thankfully, while the traps do make this a tricky setup to attack into, Zelgius' bonus weak stats give him enough health to ignore the Hex Trap. And once we move Triandra forwards, he can warp in and attack into Robin to start things off. I have him wait in place here. It means that Soren's not going to get a chance to attack him first, and we can pull Triandra back to a safer spot, and then watch the fireworks. Sadly, Plumeria does get to activate her ploy against Zelgius, even with the debuffs that we applied to her. The Phantom Res means that she still gets to activate that against him. Unfortunately for Corin, that also means that 10 of the 11 damage she's doing is coming from the exposure debuff. That's not really a good sign for the rest of her team.
I will triumph.
And there, Maria doesn't actually get a chance to use this dual strike. And while that one hit can do a chunk of damage thanks to Unity, it's only one hit, and it's not really going to accomplish much. Cordelia does get to dual strike here,
Such is war.
but it's not really going to be enough to let her survive, even with the Pavis on the first counterattack. And then we close things out with Soren, who doesn't actually have enough res to secure this double hit. And without that flare, he's just not doing enough damage to threaten Zelgius. And with only Maria left, things are pretty straightforward.
What's your plan?
We can actually move in to close things out here. Since we did find the real Hex Trap last turn, Gatekeeper can warp past Triandra and pick up our first pot, then get danced, and we'll have Nop open up the path to the second pot, then have Zelgius step forward and close out the match. This match was a really fun one to run into near the end of the week. It's a Hinoka-enabled setup using her donated charge to extend their flyers' attack ranges and limit the safe spaces available for the attacking team to hide in. While I'm not sure this is the best map for the team, the breakable walls limit their ability to reach our starting position. The sheer level of investment on this squad is really intimidating. Hinoka, Lincia, Leaf, and both Claudes are all maxed out, and even if they're all physical attackers, it's still really difficult for any tank to survive that barrage, especially with Ninian potentially dancing herself into the fight as well. I was tempted to try using Zelgius for this one, but Hell ended up being a much better fit for it, even if the triangle disadvantage means that Hinoka can always attack her safely and drop a fiery dragon vein for her to deal with.
A good day to die.
We get things going at the start here. Hell and Peony can test a couple of traps, and Soaring Guidance lets Hell warp forwards into range of the entire enemy team. Gatekeeper can stop them from warping too far into our backline to potentially threaten anyone we don't want them reaching. And Hinoka starts things off. She can't really do too much damage, but she does get to drop that Dragon Vein for Hell to deal with for the rest of the turn. Unfortunately for Claude, that 7 damage happens before the lethality, and Hell outspeeds him enough to let her punch through Deep Star and finish him off. The dagger debuff does mean that Ninian gets to attack safely here, but she can't outspeed Hell, and without being able to do that, she's not ever going to punch through Hell's Miracle and all of her post-combat healing. Leaf had the most realistic chance of finishing Hell off after lethality, but because he can't do 13 damage with his first hit, he could never actually break through that post-combat healing to secure a knockout. And from here, Hell just gets to start out-healing the incoming damage, Fracken Vein and all. That first turn went pretty well, but we still want to reach these Aether pots in the back before we close things out. And the easiest way for us to do that is to start by taking out Hinoka. Once we've limited their team to just Ninian, we can have Gatekeeper rope forward,
Well,
and box Ninian in on her second side. While this isn't going to keep her locked into place, it does keep her from threatening too much of the map, and gives us a way to start moving forward to close things out next turn. Gatekeeper can't counterattack her, but she also can't really do any damage to him, which makes it very safe for him to just stall the turn before we move forward to close things out here.
It will be done.
2 smites means that we can get both Gatekeeper and Peony into range of these Aether pots, and after we pick them both up,
oh, let's.
we can have Hell move forward and close out the match.
Yes.
Chaos Weeks are always a fun time, and that last match in particular was a treat to figure out. It's great to see Hell taking out high-investment modern teams, and I'm looking forward to using her as a bonus unit again sometime. I do have a Discord channel if you'd like to hang out and chat. There's a link in the description, and I've also got a Patreon link there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.